as well, who is here with me to discuss this. He's also the editor of the journal Sleep Health. And from Cleveland, ESPN NBA insider Amin Elhassan to talk about this. All right, Lauren, this is fascinating. How far back did you go to look at tweets, and how many players did you look at?
Sure. We went back to 2009. So we looked at 7 seasons of NBA data that we merged with time-stamped data from 112 NBA players, time-stamped tweets. And we split the data. So we had over 30,000 tweets from these 7 seasons.
30,000
30,000 tweets. And we split the data into tweets made late at night, after 11, before 7 a.m. And then we looked at the games and saw which games followed late-night tweets and which games did not follow late-night tweets. Yeah. And so for each player, we compared his performance statistics following late-night tweets compared to not following late-night tweets, and we found consistent differences.
Statistically.
We'll
run the numbers in just a second,
yeah.
but it is an impact here. I mean, what do you think of this?
You know, it's interesting to say the least. I would say, first of all, without getting into the study itself, just the idea of any late night activity leads to a drop in performance the next night because of the same thing that Tom wrote about in his piece. It's just the rest, the lack of rest, and how can you improve upon and increase your rest. But when you delve in, I got to say, Professor, I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about the methodology, about the way you guys did this. For instance, how you went by points per game and not controlling for time, per minute or per possession, which would have been more accurate, I think, depiction of performance drop, not based on the amount of time you're playing, but how productive you were in the time you played.
That's great analysis. Let's put the numbers out there. So the impact that you found was essentially what, on points per game and shooting percentage. So if I'm tweeting between 11 and 7, I'm out there, and you see an impact, how much points per game of an impact?
We found a 1.1 drop in points per game per player. So that's just not in total over the game, but that's per player per game. But, I mean, you're an excellent critic here. You're absolutely right to be concerned about minutes played. And we found that following a late-night tweet, there were about 2 minutes less played per game than the same player on games not following a late-night tweet. So we think this has to do with the coach pulling the player or identifying that the player wasn't doing his best performance. You tell me. What do you think? Is that plausible?
Yeah, I mean, a coach sees that he's got somebody a little bit tired, maybe?
Well, I think, again, it's hard to apply an kind of an all-size-fits-all or one-size-fits-all to everybody, because you have players who, on the lower end, any sort of drop in performance, and they're out. They're out. And then there are other players who a coach will coach through that, won't mind. Again, I don't know if you controlled for back-to-backs, coming back. I know you said, I believe all of these were home games. You didn't take any road
games. Home time zones?
But
home
did you
time
take
zone. We did. I'll tell you, we did.
Home time zones, excuse me.
East Coast players on East Coast games and West Coast players on West Coast games. We have not yet looked at back-to-back games. But I'll tell you, the drop in points per game per player persisted for both home and away games. Shooting accuracy, on the other hand, when we split it by whether it's a home or away game, we only found an adverse effect of late-night tweeting following away games.
I mean, what do you think of our good buddy Herm Edwards' eternal advice to players? Don't hit send. How valid is that?
Well, the problem is, Bob, is that some people are adept and are good at it, and so you shouldn't have a problem with that. Other people aren't. Other people should have the Herm Edwards don't press send. But when you say don't press send generically, you're painting a broad brush. You say all players are not responsible enough to handle social media and do it in the proper way and do it in a way that doesn't hurt them, either performance-wise, if you trust the study, or even just image-wise in terms of things that you might say. And so I'm not a fan of let's make a rule to protect the few idiots because the rest of us are pretty responsible.
Freedom of speech makes it a lot easier to protect the idiots over the years. That's one thing I've discovered. Professor Lauren Hale of Stony Brook. Fascinating. And then you got to know the gamblers are now going to be parsing who's been tweeting at what time. Thanks so much, Amin. Always great to speak with you. Thanks so much.